Friends, hey, there I am. We're live. It is CFLW, the show for this Monday, September the 22nd. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. A lot to get into in this live stream. As always, we're going to be talking about kind of like a two-part video here, two-part live stream. We're going to first talk about what's happening today and get into our local storm chance, which will continue to climb in most of Central Florida as we go through the week. It's going to bobble back and forth a little bit, and I'm going to explain that coming up, but we'll look at the areas with the best chance for some storms. We'll then look at the tropics. It's getting a little bit more active. It is getting into late September here, and there is potential development. It could get either a little bit closer to us or by the end of the month and into early October, actually have some development very close to home. So I want to make sure I highlight that for you guys as well. Please remember the CFLW is sponsored by the Lien Law Firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. It's storm season. Friends, you get storm damage of any kind, wind, hail, hurricane, even a burst pipe. They'll walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to lienonmelaw.com if you guys would like more information. The other thing I want to point out real quickly is apologies if you joined me for Friday's live stream. If you commented and I didn't get back with you or acknowledge that in the administrative mode I have here on my tablet for the YouTube channel, I didn't actually have all chat up. And so I really thought that there was only a few people commenting. I was like, man, there's not a lot of interaction with this live stream today. What am I doing wrong? What's going on? And then I realized I didn't have it in the live chat mode. So apologize for all of the familiar faces who joined me on Friday, and I didn't shout you guys out or answer your questions, but I have the live chat up right now, where I see Kevin is joining us from Lakeland. Good afternoon to you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Nancy. How are you? It is the first day of fall, indeed. Again, not for Florida not included, but we're back to 90 degrees in a lot of spots already. She's got a 58% humidity. Hey, Chessie, how you doing? Spring Hill in the house, getting a little bit of sun out there, 86 with a 70% humidity. Blue Goose is also joining us today, 90 degrees there in St. Augustine with a 46% humidity under partly cloudy sky. So great to see everyone again. Love to hear you guys in the comments section below. That's why I do these live streams, so that we can chat, we can interact, and obviously these prepare you for the week ahead. And this time of the year, they can prepare you for what might be happening a bit with the tropics as well. Again, I noticed that my name bar is up. So let me drop that. Get back over here to the live radar, and hopefully it doesn't want to pop back up again. All right, so let's talk about what's going on right now. We'll take a look at our live camera network, and then we're going to get into the next couple of days and then move ourselves into the tropics here. Several things to talk about with that, but I want to put a pin in that for right now, because let's see what's happening here. So I've got your current temperatures on the board for you right now as of 1:06 this afternoon, which are mainly in the upper 80s to right around 90 degrees. The live radar out of Melbourne, the arrows that you guys see are going to be your wind direction. Now the winds are very light at this point in time, but you notice along both coasts we actually have a bit of an onshore breeze. There's going to be a really weak diffuse sea breeze trying to get in here, but all of the moisture is still located relatively into our southeast area. So we've gotten a couple of showers to pop up over Indian River County down towards Fort Pierce, and even south of Osceola County down 441 in the Turnpike area. That's only the showers that are out there at this point in time. Mainly in Central Florida, we're high and dry. I mean, could there be this little dot of a shower there right across 40 that just went away with the last radar sweep? Yes, but you get the idea that although it's relatively cloudy at this point in time, we can bring on the satellite imagery for you guys right now, we don't have a lot of the way of any rain. This is going to build up. We're going to get some showers and a few rumbles of thunder to try and get going, mainly in our southeast areas today, and then slightly spread that opportunity for rain into other parts of Central Florida, especially for tomorrow, before we actually try and dry out a bit on Wednesday. This is not going to be a forecast the next few days where we just see either a build of the rain chance or a decrease in the rain chance. This is one of those where I do expect the rain chance to go back and forth every day. First of all, depending on kind of the environmental factors that are into play, but also where you live. In a general sense, the farther south and east that you live in Central Florida, the better your rain chance is going to be for the early to mid portion of the week. The farther north and west, you're going to see a little bit lower chance. Doesn't mean places like Ocala and Inverness and the Villages won't get into a few storms and an isolated, passing heavier shower, but we're going to have a lower chance overall. Feels like temperatures at the hour, steamy. Certainly, again, what we would expect in mid to late September and even on the first day of fall. I hate to say it, but an 88-degree temperature there in Lakeland with a dew point of 73 gives you a feels like temperature of 96. In Orlando at the hour, an 88-degree temperature with a dew point of 70 gives you a feels like temperature of 93. Let me go over here to the VisSat composite, and we'll just loop this up over the last couple of hours for you guys, so you guys just kind of get an idea of what's in play. Now, again, we still have a very diffuse boundary off towards our south, right? We're going to get a little bit in the way of a trough or a broad area of low pressure to kind of situate over the area tomorrow, okay? And then we might actually get a little bit of ridging or an area of high pressure to come back and build back in on Wednesday. It's a tug of war over the peninsula the next couple of days. There's no real defined feature that's going to ultimately win out. This is going to be localized showers and storms. But again, just when I'm looking at the moisture content, because when there are a lot of variabilities in the forecast, right? When you got a lot of different smaller factors and one of them isn't standing out, one of the things I always look at is, okay, well, just where is the better moisture content and quality in the atmosphere to help to be efficient in squeezing out the showers and storms? And that, again, is in our southeast area. So if you live in Indian River County or in Brevard County or Osceola County, you're going to have the better chance for showers overall. Now, you can clearly see this area in orange. This is from the Hurricane Center with a medium chance of tropical development for the week ahead. I promise you we'll talk a lot more about that in another area that, even if that one misses us, might have a little bit more direct impacts to us. Let's take a live look at our camera network here. And then now, thanks to our friends, are the people I work with at the channel, we take myself back off camera again, which is nice. So Winter Garden, again, a veil of clouds. So there is some moisture in the atmosphere at the lower levels, but there's nothing to really lift it. You notice that this is kind of just a veil of clouds out there, just a little bit in the way of slight vertical development. Nothing is really trying to take this low level moisture and produce it into any rain at this point in time. So guess what? It's steamy outside because of that, because in many areas, you're just getting broken decks of clouds. That's about it. No doubt about it, right? So again, just kind of one of those really nasty afternoons for us here if we don't break out into sunshine. Now, you get into a little bit different story in Winter Park. That kind of cloud coverage isn't, what we see everywhere. You even have a little bit of that thin, high, wispy clouds there, those mare's tails kind of. Those are the ice crystal clouds. They're up so high in the atmosphere, right? They look like wisps. But then you also have a little bit in the way of some cumulus clouds beginning to develop. But at this point in time, everything is fair weather, nothing imminently to get going. Live look outside to Conway. We're looking towards the East Coast. So even as we're going to watch a weak East Coast sea breeze try and march in this far north, because we're mainly looking into far northern Brevard and Volusia counties from this camera, we don't really have any, again, vertical development. This is a clear shot of this. You get a little bit of blue out there and you get several different decks of broken clouds. It's going to be a nice hot afternoon in the attractions area. Again, there will be an opportunity for a few showers and storms later today, but even below climatological averages for late September in most spots. But beautiful afternoon overall if you can stand the heat. Back over to our chat. How we doing, guys? Hi, Fiona. Great to see you. I think of 1st of September as fall. Well, Fiona, it's a great thing, right? So calendar fall, and I think as Chessie pointed out, meteorological fall, right? So calendar fall, and all of our seasons always occur generally the 21st or the 22nd of, God, you're going to make me do this, September, December, March, and June, right? 20th, late 20th, mainly the 21st or early on the 22nd. That's when we switch into, the summer, spring, fall, winter on the calendar. But meteorological spring, summer, winter, fall always occur on the 1st of the month. So we've technically been in meteorological fall since September 1st, but you got to remember where you live. And again, Florida, very much excluded from that. But just like June 1st, we get into meteorological summer and we're really feeling it then. And then that means we get into meteorological winter on December 1st. And obviously, that's basically an asterisk here in Florida. But great question. That's, calendar versus meteorological seasons are different. How we doing, Kyle? good to see you again, man. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Again, thanks for taking a quick second, hitting that like button for me. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. Appreciate those who have found other ways to support the channel as well. Again, we do have the super thanks open and other direct links in the description below. As I've mentioned, we are taking that you guys helped us support the channel wise, revenue wise, and reinvesting it into the channel. You guys saw we now have our winter park camera, and that is in part exactly for what you guys have done. Your direct support of the channel allows us to continue to grow and to provide you guys with other things. And hopefully we continue that camera network to continue to grow. By the way, that winter park camera, we call that the Lean Law Cam. Okay, because they're good friends of the channel, our supporters, and our sponsors of the channel. So there you go. All right, so let's get into what's going to be happening over the next couple of days, and then we're going to deep dive into the tropics. It's really the first time all year, which is outrageous to think about, but good, but outrageous, that we might be talking about a little bit of development closer to our area. First thing I want to point out is that if we were going to get any rain for today, there is no excessive rainfall risk across the state. Your excessive rainfall risk is well up to our north, so we're not anticipating any of the showers or storms today to really cause flash flooding issues. Now, does that mean that we can't get some heavier 1 to 3 inch rainfall totals south and east of the area? It's absolutely possible, okay? And there could be some flood advisories from time to time as well. The other thing I want to point out is that if you guys notice along the coast, we have these rip current statements already up. Can you believe that now, and I'm gonna have to bring on the satellite imagery here, but that'll take just a half second. Now, major hurricane Gabrielle, right there, a few hundred miles southeast of Bermuda. That's another story. Gabrielle has become a major hurricane this morning, is actually already producing long period swells along our east coast. That's how impressive a very tiny, mind you, major hurricane, the influence it can have on surf and sea conditions over the Western Atlantic Basin. So the Weather Service office in Melbourne is already highlighting this rip current risk and that it's going to remain exceptionally high through the week ahead, right? I don't know if we have any beachgoers who are watching right now, but if you're headed to the East Coast, please check in with local lifeguards. If you know of any family and friends who might be headed to the beach for a September holiday of any kind, make sure that they're aware that it's not going to be a fun weekend, or excuse me, a fun week overall to be out getting in the water past knee deep, right? There might be some red flags flying. It's certainly a possibility, but these swells have already built into our East Coast. Fiona wants to know, is Gabby going to the UK? Yes. Gabrielle is going to the UK, Fiona. You can see the track ultimately will begin to pull it into the UK in general, right? United Kingdom, oh my goodness. Portugal, Spain, France. I'm pretty good with my geography, you guys know that. And the United Kingdom. So yes, now again, weakening, becoming post-tropical well before this, but gale conditions for portions of Europe out of Gabrielle, absolutely plausible about 5 to 6 days from now. Gabrielle will accelerate as it becomes post-tropical, becoming a mid-latitude cyclone more than anything, and then pulling towards the UK. Yep, absolutely, Fiona. So those areas will have to monitor that as well. Hey, Kristen, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in as well. Chessie has a daughter-in-law named Gabrielle, call her Gabby. I've got so many family and friends who have been names of storms. My wife and my mother-in-law were named storms last year, as a matter of fact. And we did get to them, I believe. We had 18 named storms last year. I think we ran through both names. Okay, so I want to show you the excessive rainfall risk, not an issue. Wanted to show you guys that we already had the beach statement risk. No risk for any severe storms for today. It's the isolated fashion. Now, I do want to point out that, especially tomorrow, there could be some stronger wind gusts in our southeast areas. Also, if you didn't tune in for Friday's show, I want to point out something else that's going to be available to me now for you guys as well. I'm going to take off this radar data. I now have the ability, guys, to, again, take a look at precipitation amounts in our area. So we can look at how much rain has fallen over the last 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, and we can also even look at precipitation rates. Okay, so just west of Lakewood Park on I-95, they've had 0.3 inches of rain in the last hour. Over the last 3 hours, probably about the same. They've had heavier rain right off the coastline there near Jensen Beach. So we've had an inch of rain in the last 3 hours. This is going to help me really keep an eye out on the flood areas. And then we can also look at precipitation rates, because sometimes you can have excessively heavy rain, but it's moving fast enough, it's not going to cause a problem. But if you get some areas here where rainfall rates are several inches, this is not bad here. This is less than an inch of rain per hour in some areas, but we can get 4 or 5 inches of rain as a rainfall rate in a couple of spots. So just wanted to point that out if you guys weren't tuning into the Friday show, that's now a feature I have here at CFLW for you guys as well. So we'll be able to really keep an eye on the heavier rain and the potential for flooding in real time. All right, let's get into what's happening with the next couple of days. So I'm going to dig into that. We're going to bring up our HRRR model. Should be good to go. Grab my Lean Law tumbler. Got my diet green tea. Blue Goose, we got accumulated rainfall up to the past 24 hours. And then we have current precipitation rates. So again, when it's really coming down in an area, we're getting 4 or 5 inches of rain and it's not moving quickly, then we know that potentially over an hour they could get maybe not 4 to 5, again, because there's going to be some movement to most of these storms, but we can get at least a few inches of rain and, kind of look at those areas very mesoscale, very locally, right, where we could be talking about some flash flooding problems. All right, let's dig into it. So you're looking at the HRRR model, high resolution rapid refresh. That'll only take us out till Wednesday morning, but it'll give you an idea of kind of what I've already talked about. Again, later today, underneath some of this cloud coverage, I-4 north, we could squeeze out a couple of showers. If you look down towards, especially southern Brevard County and Indian River County and Osceola County, these are the areas that will have the best chance for a shower or an isolated thunderstorm today. Main threat out of any of this is going to be some of the localized heavier rainfall and some wind gusts of up to 40 miles an hour. So, again, could there be a spotty stray shower along I-75? Gainesville, Ocala, the Villages, Bellevue, Inverness, Wildwood, Leesburg, absolutely. Not a completely dry forecast, but nothing extremely widespread, right? And as we get towards 10 o'clock, it should wind back down and we'll be quiet overnight. Now, as we get into our Tuesday, there might be a little bit more of some mid-level support in the atmosphere to help squeeze out a few more showers, a little bit more widespread tomorrow, right? So you're going to see shower storm chances beginning to come back up in a scattered variety, scattered to even widespread in a couple of spots across Central Florida. So I do expect tomorrow to be more active overall. Now, as far as any stronger storms, they're going to be isolated. Can't rule out a special weather statement with some winds of up to 40, especially in our southern areas. Can't rule out some locally heavier rainfall as well. Generally speaking, these showers are going to be developing kind of everywhere at once, but a general trend will be for them to try and push back towards the Atlantic, towards the East Coast. So that's the general movement late on our Tuesday that I do expect, that we're going to start to see these showers develop and then move off towards the east. Now, again, this is a big difference today compared to tomorrow. We could have a much more active Tuesday afternoon across the Orlando area, from Deltona and Umatilla, Sanford, but especially Altamont Springs and Apopka and Orlando itself, and down towards MCO and Kissimmee, Polk County, Winter Haven, Lakeland area, back into portions of Hillsborough County, Brandon, Tampa areas. Certainly a better chance for storms. Stronger storms are possible in Osceola County for tomorrow. There's a really high reflectivity on the HRRR model for the Harmony area, south of Kissimmee towards the Turnpike at 441. And again, some pockets of heavier rain in Brevard County as well. And everything just kind of working its way off towards the east, but this could be one of those scenarios tomorrow where you get a decent storm in your area and then you're stuck with that veil of overcast and just that light rain falling the remainder of the daylight hours, where it is just really, really slow to dissipate. It's nothing more than light rain at that point in time, but fully clear, No. So attractions tomorrow, late afternoon and evening. Make sure you guys stay weather aware. If you have any outdoor plans, just make sure that you stay weather aware. I do expect it to be a wetter forecast for tomorrow. Switch over then to our NAM model here. And this will take us out the remainder of Wednesday and into Thursday. Yeah, this will actually get us out into Thursday evening. So we'll let this run up. Not as high resolution. Well, you know what? I don't want to do that. Actually, I want to go to the 3K. And this will just take us out to Wednesday night. This is what I was looking for. So we'll pick it up from here. Again, storms, some of them on the heavier side for the next couple of afternoons, southeast areas, improving rain chances in our northern areas in a couple of spots as well. So we'll let this NAM model run up. They changed names in Europe. Yeah, it's Atlantic. So, you know, once it gets out of that zone, it's the same situation as when an Atlantic storm crosses into the East Pacific. It goes under the East Pacific names. So you do get a name switch. Kish remembers Ophelia hitting the UK in 2017. Yep. It's a whole different story there. It's more of like a gale producer. You know, just like a big squall line of storms, but the wind is the big factor, man. That wind, and the problem is that, you know, with a hurricane, the winds can be exceptionally strong, but those exceptionally strong winds are mainly confined to, you know, a 20 to 25 mile radius around the storm. Whereas when they get post-tropical, their wind fields expand in a very wide way. And yeah, you're not going to have 100 plus mile an hour winds coming into the UK, but you could have a really big swath of maybe some 70 and 80 mile an hour wind gusts. And that's the biggest problem for them. Okay, so this is to our high resolution NAM. So again, let's pick this up from tomorrow evening. Again, model discrepancies. I like what the HRRR is doing. The NAM is a little bit less aggressive. The NAM keeps the heaviest rain tomorrow south of the area. And then for the remainder of Wednesday, it just doesn't have much. I don't know if I disagree, if I agree with this very well. I didn't look at this model before we came on. I do expect there to be more rain than what this is showing late tomorrow and into Wednesday for sure. Switch over to the GFS. Let's see, 345. I really wish in the back end of this, I'm good with numbers and dates and all that kind of stuff, but on the fly having to switch all this, I really wish my system just does what you would typically expect. It says, here's the date and the time. I really wish it also told me the day of the week, right? Because I want to make sure I get that right for you guys, right? It's like in my head, I'm going, okay, today's the 22nd. That means Friday is the 26th. Now let's back that. Thursday is the 25th. Okay, I got it. But from time to time, I just really wish my system was also like, by the way, it's Tuesday. That would be good. But anyway, so this is tomorrow. Then as we get into late Wednesday, okay, again, NAM model didn't have much. GFS model has even more than what we had tomorrow. So you've got the HRRR, and generally what I've been seeing is more, and kind of the overall blend of models, if you will, where the HRRR is active tomorrow, the GFS is a little bit weaker, but then the GFS is more active on Wednesday, okay? And then on Thursday, we should see more spotty rain and storms. Again, I'm still favoring southeast areas overall, but there will be pockets of heavy rain, some gusty winds, getting some wet weather back into the forecast. By the way, steamy. That's not gonna change. It is gonna be pretty darn hot outside and relatively miserable, but it's still September. We're somewhat accustomed to that here in our area. All right, here we go. City by city forecast, got a couple for you guys. Tomorrow, at this point in time, I expect the best chance for storms in Orlando. 60% chance, you saw that in the HRRR model. I do have it a little bit drier on Wednesday, but again, it's kind of a quick, short reprieve, if you will, from better rain chances and storm chances, because I think we're back up to a 50% chance on Thursday. Again, there's not any big weather features that are coming in. Cold front, big trough, big area of high pressure. We're kind of just meandering back and forth with a couple of more, secondary features, if you will. So I don't expect there to be a big variability in the change of the weather in the next couple of days. It means the temperatures really won't be going anywhere either. I think the low 90s for Orlando with temperatures in the mid 70s for morning lows. And again, 40, 50, 60% chance of rain the next couple of days. It should be a bit drier along the west coast. I already told you guys, I think the general movement will be for the storms to develop kind of area wide and then meander off towards the east coast. So that's going to put the east coast with a better chance for storms overall because more of them will be marching that way. It should keep the west coast a little bit drier, but there's still a decent chance of nothing else. 40% chance of the Tampa-St. Pete area for tomorrow, then more isolated on Wednesday and Thursday. Again, not much of a change in the temperatures the next couple of days. 92 the daytime high with morning lows in the mid and the upper 70s. And then for our Brevard County area, the beaches, Melbourne Beach, Satellite Beach, and Atlantic, storm chances highest tomorrow, and then down a little bit as we get towards Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see how much of a progression east the storms can make later in the week, but should have some pretty good storm chances the next couple of days, potentially drying out a bit on Thursday. Look for daytime highs to again remain in the upper 80s, pretty steamy, morning lows only able to drop into the upper 70s. All right, anyone have any specific questions about the local forecast over the next couple of days before we move on to the tropics? As they say, speak now or forever hold your peace. Or just ask at any point in time. You know, I don't care. Okay. Let's get into the tropics. Well, this is a little bit more interesting now. All right. We have two potential tropical development areas. One of them getting a little bit closer to home towards the end of the week. And we also now have major Hurricane Gabrielle. Gabrielle has kind of finally done what we have seen for a lot of the recent hurricane seasons, and that has quickly developed into a major hurricane. I'm going to take off this stuff so you guys can just kind of see Gabrielle in its intensity. What a buzzsaw of a storm. This thing went from weak and struggling late last week to getting a little bit stronger over the weekend to late yesterday and into early today, becoming a major hurricane. Thankfully, this stays east of Bermuda. They don't even have, at least the last check I made, they don't even have tropical storm watches in play. This is getting to become a larger storm, but relatively speaking, it's a compact major hurricane, and they might get brushed with some tropical storm force winds. But again, the west side of the storm is the weaker side of the storm. I've actually got wind gusts on right now. So as of the 1 o'clock hour, Bermuda isn't even painting on a wind gust of any significance. But dear gracious, what a storm. And again, our two hurricanes this year, Aaron and Gabrielle, have both become major, and both of them have threaded this needle to somehow not directly impact any of the land masses in our area. But again, even, this is 6 hours ago when it finally developed that eye, and look at it just go from there. Look at it just, so impressive. It's a Cat 3 right now. It could ultimately get to a Cat 4. I think that's even... the official forecast is now up to a Cat 4. Yeah, up to 130 with a wind gust of 160. Could you imagine a 130 mile an hour hurricane with gust of 160 going right over Bermuda? My goodness. Just love swimming down my eyes. Yeah, I hear you, Fiona. I'm kind of over as well. But again, an outrageously powerful storm. This is what it looks like on the visible satellite imagery for you guys. We'll loop that up for a second. Again, you just kind of have to marvel. And remember, when you get lightning near the eye, that is indicative of rapid development. When you have that kind of convection near the eye wall, man, oh man, and just classic in every way, shape, and form. So thankfully, again, this is not getting anywhere near us. It's not getting anywhere near the United States East Coast or even any of the Caribbean or Bermuda. Just sticks out, doesn't it? Impressive storm. But we now have to talk about these two areas. I will mention this area in red. So now it's a high development chance from the hurricane center. It's this tropical wave right here. But this one, at least initially, looks to try and take the same track Gabrielle is moving on right now, where it recurves before the Eastern Caribbean and recurves far away from us here in Florida, Bahamas, East Coast of the United States. Obviously, I'll be monitoring it, but at this point in time, the one in red doesn't look to show as much of a development chance. This is the one right here. All right, I'm just going to take off this development area because it's a little bit easier to see. This is the one that kind of cropped up yesterday that the models are really beginning to pick up on there being a better opportunity for development down the road as we go through the week. It's still very disorganized. It's going to more than likely take a couple of days as it gets closer to places like the Lesser Antilles in general. And if you guys don't know Caribbean geography, I'm happy to help you out. You've got the Lesser Antilles from Anguilla all the way back down towards Trinidad and Tobago. The southern extent of those islands are called the Windward Islands. The northern extent of the islands are called the Leeward Islands. So places like Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda would be considered the Leeward Islands. Then you get into the US and British Virgin Islands, and then there's Puerto Rico. All of these areas are in store for some really wet, stormy, sloppy conditions over the next several days. But the Hurricane Center, again, doesn't have it developing anywhere along this line with the first potential development area in the Leeward Islands. But the last development zone, couple of things. First of all, it's to an orange, so it's up to a medium percent, and it's slipped a little bit farther west. We're now on the western envelope of this potential area. You are including Turks and Caicos and a lot of the Bahamas, and it gets somewhat close to our area. And again, this is a medium chance of tropical development for the week ahead, for the next 7 days. Ultimately, I think we'll have a good idea by Thursday or so, certainly by Friday when you see you guys for the next CFLW, the show, how this is beginning to evolve. Is it trying to develop here and becoming a stronger storm, or does it take all the way towards near Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas to develop, and then you have a little bit of a weaker system? Now, again, regardless, if we go based on this potential track, you're going to have some impacts if this does evolve along our east coast, obviously in the form of some potential beach issues and high surf and sea conditions as well, but more direct impacts for the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos if you guys have any interest in those spots. So let me show you guys the newest run of the GFS model. Take this out about a week, loop this up, and we'll see what's happening with this. So latest GFS model. Thanks, Blue Goose. I appreciate you, man. I should have you as my hype man, right? Just have you come on like every live stream, which you do here, but even on Media Mundo, and just hype me up. Everyone needs a good hype man, And I appreciate Fiona and Farah coming in as moderators as well. And everyone who is in the comments. Again, it means a lot for you guys to spend part of your day with me, for you guys to think it's important enough to take time out of your lives to join me on this live stream to talk about the weather. It really means a lot, and I do appreciate that. And again, for those who interact with the live chat, that's the reason why I'm doing this. All right. So let's look at the latest run of the GFS. We'll swing this back to the beginning, and I'll move it so you guys can see it. So again, next couple days, wet, sloppy, disorganized disturbance getting into the Eastern Caribbean. Oops, that was the wrong button. As we get into, Thursday, like I said, more than likely, I think Thursday's the day where we kind of really see what might be happening with this system, right? On the GFS, and this has been the case for about the last 24 hours now, it does begin to wrap up a system close to the Bahamas. Now, this time yesterday, it was a little bit farther east. So there's a bit of a concern that the GFS has slipped a little bit farther west with potential more direct impacts over the Bahamas. But you notice that recurve in the Gulf Stream is occurring. Now, the models have always been more aggressive at trying to wrap this up into an even stronger storm as it gets towards the Carolina coastline. This is a little bit weaker than what it was 24 hours ago, but a little bit farther west as well. So we'll have to see. First of all, before we have true low-level center, we should expect a lot of model variability between the two global models that I mainly use, the GFS and the European, but there's also the ICON and then the Canadian CMC, and then model run-to-run consistency. So the GFS bobbling back and forth, both in location and strength of the storm, the Euro model doing the same as well. Until we have a true defined center of circulation, you should expect that in these models, right? So we always kind of take this with a grain of salt and a wide breath, and we monitor those run-to-run consistency issues, and we discuss it and go from there. But you get a system developing here Thursday into Friday, near the Bahamas, and then moving up the United States East Coast. At this point in time, that would be indirect impacts to Central Florida, but some potential direct impacts to the immediate East Coast in the form of some beach erosion and some higher surf and sea conditions. If I show you guys the surface-based winds out of this, it might just take a second to load up, but we'll get to it. So these are surface winds, not gusts, sustained winds, you know, trying to tell the story here without hyping it up. You can see that it's a very broad wind field over the Leeward Islands and the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, and then it just tries to consolidate itself over the southeast of the Bahamas. And again, you know, at least on this GFS, it's a concise small storm, right? So if that's the case, again, the wind fields will be probably relatively, you know, not widespread, but we'll see. But there it is. Again, my model's taking some time to fully loop up. It should be doing so here in just a second, but pinpointing out where likely we're going to get some development here out of the GFS model. And there it goes. And again, just deeper down the road, a stronger storm. Now, is this something that I'm going to be monitoring for you guys every day? Absolutely. Of course. You know, if you guys want to check in on these tropic updates every day, join me over on my other channel, Media Mundo, right? But I'll obviously be monitoring this. And if there's any more push west of the models, this will be one that we're going to have a lot more to discuss. So just to give you guys an idea that we're going to have time, because even on the GFS model, that's basically the wee hours of Saturday morning. This is Friday night, and it's still down in the southeast Bahamas. So we've got plenty of time to monitor whatever this ultimately might end up becoming and where it might ultimately end up going. If I show you guys, got a couple of graphics to show you here. This is the European artificial intelligence version of the model ensembles, okay? Now, again, if you don't know what this is telling you, is that there's the deterministic version of the model. That's the main one that runs. That's where they put all of the computing energy and all of the expected initial conditions. But because some of the initial conditions are estimated or unknown, they do run what they call ensemble members, where each member has some slight variation to initial conditions. And obviously, if the initial conditions are a little bit different, you're going to get a little bit of a different model output with each of those members. This, by the way, is going to be your area in red, and then this is going to be your area in orange. So this is that red area taking the track of Gabrielle, but look again towards late this weekend and early next week, where you have the development of the area over the Bahamas. The European AI is even slower with that development. It has a more rapidly developing area in red, which takes a track similar to Gabrielle, but also the AI version of the European model has other areas to watch as we get towards the very end of September, right? About 9-10 days from now and into early October, where potentially another area in the Northwest Caribbean or even the Gulf tries to get going as well. The bottom line is, I think we're going to have a lot more potential tropical activity to talk about much closer to home in the coming 10 to 14 days, okay? Maybe as early as 5 days out from now, but I think as we get towards the very end of September and the beginning of October, we're going to have a lot more weather to talk about. This is the deterministic run of the AI. So I showed you the ensemble members, right? So now you're going to see the one plot. And this is what I'm trying to point out. I'm going to let this run up one more time. So again, deterministic, you're going to get the development here of the one storm, which is farther east than where most of the models have it. Okay? So the AI deterministic keeps the orange area well away. But to point out that down the road, you look to the Northwest Caribbean and the southeast side of the Gulf as we get towards the last day of September and early October, and it does have a storm developing and moving much closer to our area. It's not so far down the road that we can absolutely dismiss this, because there's other model support for potential development or a higher likelihood of development in the Northwest Caribbean and the South Central Southeast Gulf, again, in that 10-day window. So I just wanted to point this out. Nothing is coming our way at this point in time. There is nothing that you guys need to be doing. We always like to stay weather aware. We always like to make sure we've got plans in case a storm moves our way. But I'm just showing you guys that, you know, what I believe to be a more active potential tropical time for us here, beginning right at the end of the month and into early October. All right. And again, there's several models that are supporting the enhanced probability closer to home. All right. So that's that. Does anyone have any specific questions about the tropical part of our live stream? What I just went over right now. Nothing is imminent. Plenty of time to monitor the orange area, and then we'll just have to see if the Northwest Caribbean or the South Central Gulf want to spark up. I remind you that it is the heart of hurricane season. The peak is normally September 10th. We're just beyond that, but we even get a little maximum again to come back into early October. It has been an unusual season with only 7 named storms so far, but last year really ramped up mid-September through the end of October, and we'll just have to see if it's the same for this year as well. Okay, we've been booking. We're 43 minutes into this puppy today. Love it. All right. So, I think we've hit all the big spots. We'll go back to our live radar here. And again, just to show you a couple of showers rolling into, you know, Indian River County and south, and a couple of more isolated showers, you know, dotting the landscape, but nothing more than that. Okay, my friends, I think we put in some good work today. Don't you guys think so as well? First of all, appreciate you tuning in. Second of all, please remember that CFLW is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida. They're your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Storm season is here. You get storm damage of any kind, even if you've been in an auto accident. They're not just a one-trick pony. They got a lot of different things they can help you out with. You know, they do offer free consultation and policy reviews, and they cover the entire state of Florida. So you can go to leanonmelaw.com if you guys would like more information. As always, appreciate you guys tuning into the chat. This becomes a recorded version of this under the live tab of CFLW. So if you can't even catch the live stream, you can go back and watch this at your convenience, and you're more than welcome to ask a question. I'm happy to answer that in the comments section below. Hey, Farah. Good to see you. Yeah, appreciate it too, Chelsea. Thanks. So anyway, I'm monitoring things. Obviously, if some of the storms get a little bit rowdy over the next couple of afternoons, I'll be back on live to cover it for you. Even if there's an opportunity for some heavier rainfall or some flash flooding, we'll do that. Otherwise, all eyes will be on the tropics. And again, to talk about the storm chances for the weekend ahead, want to see you guys for CFLW, the show on Friday. Have a fantastic rest of your week. I will see you guys either earlier or at the latest for Friday's show here on the channel. Until then, my friends, thanks for taking a quick second to hit the like button and subscribing. Take care. I'll see you guys soon.